Okay, my YouTube people, I was recently asked, how do you remove the security system off of a twin cam? Now, the person that asked me had a 2007 Dyna, but I looked at about 4 or 5 prints from 2000 up to 2010, and if you have the security system, this will work for all of them. But this is only for twin cam up to 2010. In 2011, they went to CAN bus, so this procedure won't work for that. So you have this turn signal and security module. And the way the most outputs off the ECM and this module work is they provide a ground, and power is already at the location. For instance, with your fuel injectors, their power is already on the fuel injector, and the ECM provides a ground to fire each fuel injector. It's the same way with the coil. There's power on the coil when you turn the switch to on. The ECM provides a ground for each cylinder to fire the spark plug. It's no different here for the security. The way this works is it looks at different inputs, and then it provides the ground to the start relay. And on this one, it's pin 9. It's called the start relay control. That wire that you see, and I have it highlighted in green, is a tan wire with a green stripe. You can see it comes directly over to the start relay and isn't hooked to anything else as it comes over there in the harness. The one thing you have to consider is this takes some safety away. If you're not willing to take the safety features away, you shouldn't do this. The one safety feature that this particular bike has is a neutral safety switch, and it also has a clutch switch. Those will no longer work when you do this procedure. If the only thing you want to do is eliminate the security system, you take this wire off of pin 9, either cut it or depin it. You can either pull it out of the harness and attach it to ground, or you can run a new ground wire right here to the relay. Now on the connector it's marked S or pin 2, and coming over, even though it's highlighted in green, it's a tan wire with a green stripe. I'm just highlighting it in green for ease of explanation. Once you have a full-time ground on this relay, you would turn your ignition switch on, turn your handlebar switch to run. When you hit the starter switch, it's going to bring power down this red highlighted wire, which is a black wire with a red stripe. That's going to fire this relay and cause your bike to crank the starter. The other thing this person was doing was building a chopper with this bike. So they were eliminating the handlebar switches altogether and the turn signals. So let's talk about that for a minute. When you're going to eliminate this module, you have to be very careful to make sure any of these wires that you detach are not able to be grounded. My recommendation would be to put heat shrink on each one of them and make sure that they couldn't be grounded. The thing I would do is eliminate them out of the harness altogether. But with that, you have to be careful because some of these wires run to other places, and those other places will still need that signal. For instance, pin 1 is the battery. That's hot all the time off the battery. You can see that battery wire is also connected to the siren. Now you wouldn't need it up there, but over here it's attached, and that goes over to the speedometer, and the speedometer would still need it if you're going to keep that. The next wire is a hot off the ignition, and that is also running the other locations. So if you're going to take it off here, you just want to cut it back as far as you can before it goes somewhere else, or cut each one of these and put something over the end so that they can't short out somewhere down the road. On pin 3, you have the VSS and the serial data link. Now that VSS is a speed sensor, vehicle speed sensor. What happens with that is you get a pulse and it goes on this serial data link, and that determines how long that the turn signals stay on at what speed you're going. That one's going to be eliminated, but that serial link goes to the ECM and it also goes to the speedometer, so you can't eliminate it out of the harness altogether. Pin 4 has the neutral safety switch. Now, you're not going to have neutral safety any longer, so you have to know that if the bike's in gear and you crank it, it's going to go forward if you don't have the clutch in. You still have the neutral safety switch here. You don't want to eliminate all the wires because you still have your neutral light on your dash. But if you're going to get rid of the dash, then that's not an issue. The next 2 wires on 5 and 6 are the turn signal feed left and the right turn signal feed. They are going to be outputs to the turn signal. If you're not having turn signal, you don't need those wires. Again, these go to the dash, so you have to consider whether you want that wiring to be there or not. The next 2 on 7 and 8 are the turn signal input switches, and they come from the handlebars. Now, if you're eliminating the handlebar switches, then you don't need these wires either. Like I said, the start relay control is pin 9. The next on pin 10 is the clutch safety switch. You won't have that any longer, so you have to keep that in mind. 11 is the alarm signal. You can take that wire out and you can remove the siren. And then the next one's the ground. These three down here, 1, 2, and 3, they're part of the antenna for the fob. So you can get rid of all that because you're not going to need the fob anymore either. The other thing you have to do if you're eliminating the right-hand side switches is you have to make sure that it's still able to put power onto the ignition circuit. There's a gray wire that comes up here, and that gray wire goes to the run-stop switch, and that's 12-volt power. When you turn the switch on, it puts 12 volts on this white-black wire, and that white-black wire also goes to the starter switch. You need to make sure that when you turn your key switch on for power for the bike, that it powers up this white-black wire in order for the ignition circuit to be powered up. Plus, you need to make sure that when you turn your new key to the start position, in order to crank the starter, you have to have 12 volts on this black wire with a red stripe. And that's that wire that comes over here to the start relay. But you do need to understand that you need to provide power to the ignition. This run-stop switch gets power when you turn the key switch to the on position, and then that needs to provide power to the ignition system. Now, when you're doing this, you don't necessarily need to use these wires all the way up at the handlebars. You need to find those back in the harness closer to where they land, and then you could just do it there. That way you don't have a bunch of extra wire. So that's how you eliminate the security system and then eliminate the turn signals also. Now, the one thing that you have to know is because you're removing this module, it's going to cause a check engine light and it's going to cause your computer to spit codes, but it shouldn't affect the running status. It's important to remember that you need that vehicle speed sensor signal and the serial data link to go to the ECM because that affects the fuel map and the timing map. That pretty much takes care of what you need to do if you're either eliminating the security system or you're building some kind of chopper where you're eliminating turn signals and everything else. This is a lot of good free information that you're getting, so please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. It helps my channel. It doesn't cost you a thing. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Thank you for watching.